10 years ago, the lush rolling hills of central New Jersey provided the backdrop for 1980's premier international road race, the Midland Run. Colorado's Herb Lindsay on the left, the road racer of the year, bested Finland's four-time Olympic champion Lasse Viren. But there was more to Midland 1980 than racing. Athletes from around the world gathered that weekend to move their sport into the future. 10 years later, the athletes of today who make a living on the roads can look back to Midland Run 1980 and say, this is where it began. Hi, everybody. I'm Tony Revis. Welcome to the Foot Locker Road Race of the Month as we've returned to Far Hills, New Jersey for the 1990 Midland Run. The yoke of amateurism, it began to be lifted 10 years ago during the Midland weekend as the international caliber athletes gathered and formed their first union. But in doing so, they broke with the sport's international governing body the issue prize money. Now, prize money was not officially recognized in road running for 2 more years, but the consequences of the Midland Run 1980 are still being felt throughout the world of road running today. With road racing's prize money now into the millions of dollars annually, the financial lure of the roads has attracted increasingly deeper fields of top international competitors. The fear that prize money to elite athletes would diminish the grassroots participation is proven groundless, as racing's numbers have continued to grow in the last decade. And the speed. Records have been constantly under siege as athletes have been able to focus all their energies on training and racing. The sport of road racing has blossomed from the days of American-only competitions among a handful of stars to today's It's Anybody's Race shootouts among athletes from around the world. So today, athletes shift into high gear, kicking for the tape, and not just for the glory, but very much for the prize money awaiting on the other side of that line.
He's got less than 30 seconds to go to make it. The clock is in sight.
The Foot Locker Road Race of the Month is brought to you by Foot Locker, where it all begins. And by AT&T, the right choice. And now, up to my broadcast partner, Lynn Williams.
Thanks, Tony. When we think of American road racing, typically we talk about elite runners, prize money, world-class competition. Truly, though, there's something out there for everybody. It's a family festival. Barbecues, tailgate parties, diaper derbies, you name it. And the Midland Run is one of those races, with the bonus of having the Women's 15K National Championship.
The elite competitors lined up at the starting line. They'll go off first. It's a series of 8 or 9 races throughout the Festival of Midland 1990. The weather conditions, not great, not horrible. And now our elite athletes. Kim Jones, ranked 3rd in the world in the marathon in 1989. This is Leslie Lehane, former American record holder at 10 miles, coming off her pregnancy. Lisa Weidenbach, the defending champion. Number 22, Janet Smith, former Kinney cross-country champion while in high school. And number 2, Kathy O'Brien, the Trevira-Tucson 10-mile victor just a couple of weeks before the Midland Run. They're dropping in from everywhere for Midland 1990. And we'll be back with the start of it right after this. Welcome back to the Midland Run 1990. Tony Revis along with Lynn Williams. We've had a start in the Women's National 15K Road Championships, except, Lynn, the first 600 meters is on grass.
It's a very interesting course. Not many start like this on grass, move to dirt roads and on to undulating hills. Kathy O'Brien is obviously feeling strong and determined today, setting her own pace. Amongst the leaders in the second pack is Kim Jones.
Kathy O'Brien, Lisa Weidenbach, Maria Trujillo. There's about 5 good American women here who really can have a good shot at winning it. I feel pretty strong. I've had some good workouts, been concentrating on my speed since the marathon, so basically it's just kind of see what I can do today.
Kim finished a disappointing 5th at the Boston Marathon in April. suffering a severe case of blisters as she was ranked number 3 in the world at the marathon last year, her last race being in second place at the New York City Marathon.
And Lisa Weidenbach, running just behind Kim Jones here, is also in recovery mode from the marathon. She ran the London Marathon also in April and PR'd. Kathy O'Brien, on the other hand, hasn't run a marathon since way back in October. She's feeling fresh, and she knows that if she opens a gap early on, these girls aren't possibly going to have the speed to catch up to her.
Lynn, we've seen it before at the Bobby Krim 10-miler in Flint, Michigan last year, where she ran away early and hit and set a world best for 10 miles. She also did the same thing at the Jacksonville River Run. Kim Jones and Lisa Weidenbach both almost seem tentative, Lynn, and seem to be racing almost for second place, and they're letting Kathy O'Brien go. I mean, there doesn't seem to be the eye of the tiger in these two at all.
They certainly are tentative, Tony. At this pace, they've gone through the first mile in about 5:16. I'm really surprised that they've allowed Kathy to get ahead this far. I know that they realize how fresh she is, and yet it's a 15-kilometer race. They can relax at this pace just as easily as she can.
There's not that much. It's a race for second. It's not a race for third. There's not people coming up on their backside. Do you think one of them at least would have had the courage to sit there and all or nothing? Because you're going to get third at worst.
Well, it looks as though Lisa's making somewhat of a bid to, to close the gap up to Kathy. Kim, in second place right now, is not responding to Lisa's move. It's interesting. They both are obviously not confident at this point with what they can handle.
And the essence of confidence is Kathy O'Brien. She is as fit as we've ever seen her. This is a hilly course, and she's short of stature, very compact, very efficient in her stride and her whole cadence. She's absolutely ideally suited for this type of course.
The Midland Run is non-stop action as we have a look at the men assembling for their 15K race.
But the competition is not all athletic. It is also at Midland gastronomic, as there is a tailgate party and competition. This guy's got half the liquor of New Jersey in his backseat, and other people like to set up elaborate gourmet tables of food. Again, there is a judging and an award ceremony at the end of the tailgate proceedings. The Midland start for the men's 15K.
This resembles a cross-country race if I ever saw one, out on those grassy fields, the rolling terrain.
The women, of course, did have a head start over the 9.3-mile course, but a classic example. Guys chasing women.
That's the strong rhythm running of Kathy O'Brien. She's already opened a 15-second lead over the second-place lady.
We've seen Kathy O'Brien on Road Race of the Month in the past. Here she is at the Jacksonville River Run, March 1989, winning impressively. Very humid conditions in that particular race. Later in the fall, we saw her setting a world best at the Krim 10-miler in Flint, Michigan.
What an impressive run that was, averaging about 5:10 per mile.
We return to 1990. Kathy O'Brien picking up right where she left off last year. At 22 years of age, one of the real superstars on the American road scene. The fight for second, Lisa Weidenbach and Kim Jones. And there was an air of resignation about Weidenbach before the gun even went off.
Well, I think Kim Jones is fit, and Maria Trujillo has shown that she's fit based on her Boston performance. So, I think it's going to be a race for second, if anything. Once we get on the pavement, she'll start, motoring along because she's a real steady runner. So she'll be the type of runner that just slowly pulls away because she can maintain her speed. I think she's a bit focused on this race, and I'm coming off of London, and I just want to run strong and improve upon last year's performance. But all in all, I just want to run well and just keep her in sight.
Well, Lisa certainly called it. Kathy O'Brien is already 21 seconds ahead. She's already out of sight. It's become a two-woman race for second while Kathy O'Brien strolls through the countryside.
Plenty of people left the race behind Kathy O'Brien, including all these men. We'll be back with more of the men's race and Kathy O'Brien at the Midland Run 1990. Welcome back to the Foot Locker Road Race of the Month. I'm Tony Revitz along with Lynn Williams. As the 500 women continue to run in the 15K Road National Championship, up ahead, Kathy O'Brien, who broke away in the first 400 meters of the race and has extended her lead from that point forward. No competition.
She doesn't have time to check out this beautiful scenery because she is setting a fast pace. It's hard to picture here, but in fact the course is very undulating with her even steady cadence. It's hard to pick up the fact that she's going uphill and downhill constantly.
What's this now, Lynn? She's sort of pointing around, what, calling for a table, roadside?
There's probably an aid station up ahead. It is humid out there today.
And she's looking for some water.
Over 15 kilometers, you're bound to, to require some replenishments of your fluids.
Looks like she just dumped that right on her head and kept on motoring along. She's got one of the great, you can see what a great marathoner she would be, even though her personal best is 2 hours and 30 minutes and 18 seconds. She was a member of the 1988 Olympic marathon team as a 20-year-old, and she ran in the Olympic trials as a 16-year-old. Kim Jones in third place, heading up one of the Midland Hills, has now lost contact with Lisa Weidenbach in second place.
It's become a three-woman time trialing event. Each having lost sight of one another, they have to just concentrate on what they're doing themselves, their own rhythms. It's interesting to note that most road races these days are run with men, so that normally these women would have men around them to focus on and perhaps move up in the race. In this case, they're faced with their own individual challenges.
The hills on this course are not steep, but they're quite long. Our first look at the men's 15K leaders in the black. From Albuquerque, New Mexico, that's Aaron Ramirez, and behind him, somebody you know rather well, Lynn.
That's Kerry Nelson from Vancouver, British Columbia. He's a good, strong, young, up-and-coming Canadian runner.